Hey y'all, hi. So in the year of 2024, I've started a structured project for myself that is an attempt not to spend less, not necessarily to buy less, but to spend less time shopping. Primarily to spend less of my time throughout the week browsing online and trying to make decisions about what I might buy, what I might not buy, reading reviews, researching, etc. Now, I've made a whole video about the project, an intro video, and I will link that. I'm not going to go over any of the details or the whys and wherefores of the project in this video because I would just be repeating myself. So if you're curious about this project and you missed the first video, definitely click through and watch that before you come back and watch this one. This video is an update on how it's going after just 1 week. The project launched on a Monday. I think it was halfway through the month, like January 14th or 15th. And, in brief, I'm not allowing myself to browse online or do any kind of shopping Monday through Friday. I'm confining all of that behavior to the weekends. That's the general outline of the project. So because of that, it launched on a Monday. It was last Monday. This is the following Monday. So I have had Monday through Friday of the first week where I wasn't allowed to do any of that shopping behavior. And then I had the weekend. And now this is the first day of the second week of weekdays. In this video, I am essentially just going to tell you exactly how it went. And if this happens to be your first time to my channel, then welcome. This is really the meat of the channel. This is like the meat of the meat. I mean, it's a beauty channel. I'm really interested in fashion, aesthetics at large. I review a lot of beauty products. I'm also interested in consumerism and its effect on our lives. I think there's joy to be had in beautiful things, but I also think that there are pitfalls. And I like doing projects like this to expose some of the complexities. So if you're into this and you're not subscribed, maybe consider it. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, so last Monday, I woke up Monday morning and I immediately hit a wall. Basically immediately. I woke up, I started getting dressed, I reached for my deodorant and I went to put it on and I was like, oh no. I use this extraordinary deodorant from Necessaire. It contains exfoliating acids, so it kills bacteria, keeps the underarm skin exfoliated. I think that's the key because it's a natural deodorant. It's not an antiperspirant. It doesn't necessarily make me less sweaty, but it totally kills the smell, which I feel like is the main issue. The Necessaire deodorant to me is the cream of the cream. I've been using it forever. And for a long time I was just I think I used one in the eucalyptus scent that they might have sent me when I did a sponsored video for them. And then I might have had the unscented one. Both of those are carried at Sephora and they're fine. But eucalyptus isn't my particular favorite for that kind of thing, for something you're putting on your body every day. I like a little bit of a scent. And then I learned that there's actually a sandalwood scent from Necessaire, but none of the retailers carry the sandalwood scent. You have to buy it directly from the Necessaire site. This is just to say, my deodorant of choice is the sandalwood scent Necessaire deodorant. And in order to acquire it, I have to place a dedicated order from the Necessaire website. And what that means is that because I can't just add it to, an order from Sephora for things to review, because I have to go out of my way to order it specifically, I always run out and then keep forgetting to order it. And this had started happening recently. I had run out. I started to feel it running low. It's a roller ball. And I was like, I don't think anything's coming out. I feel like I'm getting a little bit smellier than usual. But then I keep forgetting to order it. I remember in the moment in the morning, and then I forget about it until the next morning, for days and days in a row. That had been going on for, a week, leading up to Monday morning a week ago when I had just launched this project, wasn't allowed to even touch a website from which anyone could buy a thing for an entire 5 days. And my first thought basically that morning as I reached for my deodorant was, I'm going to have to break my rules. We're less than half a day into this and I'm going to have to break my rules. All these thoughts came flooding in. I forgot about replacements. I should have made an exception for replacements. I'm going to have to bend the rules. It has to be okay to replace a thing. I was thinking through the logistics. I was like, the deodorant's already almost out. And if I don't place the order until next Saturday, and then it takes kind of a long time to ship, a week maybe, that's 2 weeks without my deodorant starting today. That's half a month. I've totally screwed the pooch. I should have remembered to do it last night before I went to bed. I just went into this kind of emergency problem that can only be solved by buying a thing mode. Luckily, I did not immediately go and buy it. I gave it some time. I had this little eye-rolly, semi-panic moment, and then I just moved on and like continued on with my day. And I thought, I'll revisit this later. It's going to be so embarrassing to have to admit on YouTube that my first act was to buy something on the morning of the first day. And then after I had calmed down, after that initial burst of like, oh my gosh, I need to have my deodorant. I need it as soon as possible, my special exact one, otherwise I can't live. After that had calmed down, I remembered what I learned during my no-buy year when I had really strict rules in 2018. And I basically had to like beg, borrow, or steal or make do with subpar things that I already had. Like when my wallet got stolen and I ended up using that awkward pouch for the rest of the year. It changed my brain a little bit around what is necessary and what's ideal and what truly requires a purchase and how long I can hold out with a less than ideal situation. Like how long I can go with just the second tier option or even the least ideal option, but at least it'll do before needing to necessarily break down and make a purchase. As the day wore on and I continued to think about the deodorant, I remembered to ask myself, can this wait? Can this wait until the weekend? In the morning, in the moment when it first occurred to me, I was like, no, it can't. It's going to be so long. I'm going to be so smelly. It was like this catastrophic thinking cascading. But because I took a pause and I revisited, I realized that the answer to the question, can this wait, was actually yes, for a couple of reasons. One, if I turn the deodorant upside down and kind of let it drip down, which I had already been doing, but I had just started, I felt like I could get a little more life out of it, right? I was like, I can probably make it another week on this tube, even though it's not ideal. I won't be getting as much as I usually get. So what? It's like I'll be a little smellier than usual. I don't even go into an office. I work from home. Even if I went a week without deodorant at all, or 2 weeks without deodorant, I mean, it wouldn't be great, but it also is so much less of an emergency than I had tricked myself into thinking that it was first thing in the morning. And the other thing is, I could just borrow Joe's deodorant. I mean, it's Old Spice. I don't love how it smells on me. I don't love how it smells when it gets on my clothes. But if I'm truly in a pinch, I can just use it. And then I wash my clothes and the smell washes out and it's fine. I just realized by the end of the day that it's absolutely nothing to have to eke out the last couple drops of my current deodorant and then use Joe's for a couple of days or even a week until I'm able to order my favorite deodorant on the weekend and then wait another week for it to arrive. It is nothing to do that. It's a no-brainer to do that. And it is so acceptable, so much more acceptable than breaking down and making a purchase during the time that I'm not allowed to be browsing online and making purchases. But it took me time to come down from that initial little freak out and remember that. Very rarely is something a true shopping emergency that requires an immediate purchase. Very rarely. And I'm only going 5 days at a time in between allowing myself. So I expect it to be very rare that there will be a reason for me to break those boundaries and actually buy something during the week. And even though I at first thought that this was definitely going to be one, I quickly realized that it definitely wasn't one. So I punted the deodorant, started keeping a written list of the things that I was going to either think about buying or definitely buy once the weekend arrived. And then for all of the rest of the day, in and amongst my processing this question of the deodorant, I experienced an increased desire to shop online compared to even what I'd been experiencing in the days leading up to it. What felt to me like this wild desire to shop, which I'm sure was just my brain kind of beating against the bars of its new prison. It really reared up when I was trying to get dressed. I put on some pants and I was like, I don't have any tops that go with these pants. I don't have anything to wear, which is so ridiculous because I have so many wonderful, beautiful clothes. It reminded me that this feeling of a ravenous desire to go browsing to find the perfect thing often comes up when I'm trying to get dressed or trying to get myself together and I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable, I don't know, in my skin or in the day, and I'm blaming all of that on not having anything to wear. So I'm just like, oh, my closet is what's wrong with my life. I have to buy something to fix that problem. And because I reminded myself that's often the place the seed gets planted, I also reminded myself that one of the ways to soothe that is strategies around getting dressed in the morning and organizing one's closet. So decluttering clothes, reorganizing clothes, streamlining, doing laundry. I mean, just the basic act of doing laundry and having your favorite clothes be clean again. I have that video, Getting Dressed, You're Doing It Wrong, like the 5 steps to getting dressed in the morning, that kind of thing. I will link that in the card. That kind of thing can really help take the sting out of that, take the panic out of that moment in the morning when you're trying to get dressed and you're like, I just can't. And the solution is shopping. And overall, just the fact that I felt all of these things that I need to shop for, that I need to buy, flooding crazily through my brain all of Monday, it was just confirmation that I really do need to be doing this project, and ultimately just made me glad that I was doing it. And that pretty much continued through Tuesday. It started to drop off, though. Tuesday, I didn't feel as frustrated by my own handcuffs as I had on Monday. It was like my brain rattled the bars of its cage and then was like, okay, fine. It was still there a little bit. But the thing that I noticed on Tuesday was that an aspect of this, or a piece of fallout from this rule, is that I'm not allowed to open emails from brands. So brand emails that come into my inbox, advertising emails. You know, if you get on a brand's mailing list and then they're sending you an email every day or every week that's like, we have a big sale or we have released new items. A lot of those I just delete them without reading them. But when I get one from a brand I really like, even if I'm not planning to buy anything, I will often just open it and check out the email. And it'll often cause me to click through to the website and just like poke around and see what's up and get caught up and see what's new. And it's a way of wasting time during the day. It's a way of procrastinating. I sit down to check my email or to respond to an email, and maybe I do write one email, and then I throw myself a bone, a little treat, which is clicking on one of those brand emails and clicking through and blah, 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 blah. And then I like go back to my email, and it causes it to take 3 times as long to respond to emails because I'm interspersing the work with this break from work that I'm constantly being triggered to take because those emails are constantly popping up in my inbox. I have been working on unsubscribing. I mean, I think I would love if I wasn't subscribed to any of those email lists. Paradoxically, like I wish that they would all just disappear, but it does require some labor to go through and unsubscribe and subscribe. And I do it periodically, and it's kind of like having to always weed the garden, you know? I say paradoxically though, because there's part of me that likes it, that likes getting those emails and having a segue into a break from work constantly like dripped into my inbox. It's a problem that I knew was there on some level, and that sort of part of my brain is always like, oh, I need to solve this problem by unsubscribing from absolutely everyone. But I just had never really looked straight at it. It's like this thing that has been going on a little bit in the back of my mind. Because of that, I hadn't anticipated that this project would affect that experience so much, the experience of being in my inbox, the experience of that part of my work day. And on Tuesday, it really hit me. I went in to do emails and I was like, oh, I have to ignore all of these emails because clicking on any one of them would be tantamount to browsing. It would be shopping behavior. And so I was simultaneously faced with like a big no and like kind of excited and relieved that that problem had been solved for me by my project. So that was one of my little revelations throughout the week that occurred on Tuesday. I was keeping notes as they went through. Wednesday. So on Wednesday, the coping strategies reared their ugly heads, or rather the coping strategy reared its ugly head, the main one, and that is reading, novel reading. What happened was that on Wednesday, I woke up, and usually in the morning, and this was true before, for a long time, in the morning I try not to consume screen media for as long as possible, of any kind. So I don't look at my phone, I don't even look at my Kindle screen, don't open my computer while I'm doing things like waking up, feeding the baby, having breakfast, meditating, getting dressed. Like I try to wait until I'm through my morning before I look at a screen. I've been doing that for a long time, and I can't recommend it more. I mean, it is having space to just think after waking up without cramming anything in to the eyes and into the brain is life-changing. So that was already in place. It's like browsing during the workday later in the day and in the evenings and late into the night that I was trying to stave off. The mornings are pretty sacrosanct actually already for me. That's why it was a surprise when I woke up Wednesday morning and I was like, I'm going to read now while I was cooking breakfast, while I was eating breakfast, during this time that I usually spend just being me and checking in with myself and being in my body. And I know that not doing that, not filling my head with something, not entertaining myself with media during those first couple hours of the day, I know that that is a thing that helps keep me healthy. And so it was like a rebellion. It was like a rebellion of the brain. It was my brain being like, well, if you're not going to let me browse for stuff whenever I feel like it, then I'm going to read all the time and take everything away, like take your other quiet time away. It was like this pushback, you know? Now, I let it happen because why? Why did I let it happen? Because I felt like I didn't have the willpower. It felt, once the idea occurred to me, the naughty idea, to just keep my Kindle with me all through the morning and just read it at every little chance I got instead of not looking at the screen. Once it occurred to me, and I kind of gave myself permission and I was like, it's naughty, but I'm going to do it. I couldn't bring myself back from it. All I could tell you, I'm also reading a very gripping book. Like I'm very gripped by the books that I'm reading. So it might just be that. But what happened was that Wednesday and Thursday just totally went down the drain to reading. I was just completely glued to my Kindle in every spare moment all day long. And I knew that it wasn't good. I was like, this disengagement from what's going on inside of me and around me is exactly what I'm trying to avoid with this new plan to only browse on the weekends. I knew that, but because I'm easing into it and because I'm not really about being too harsh with myself right now or going too hard, I allowed it. But I have to say, it wasn't really, they weren't very fruitful days. I mean, I did my work. I did everything I had to do. The top priorities, work and parenting, all got done. I mean, nothing is like displacing those things. It's just the rest of the pie chart of my time that's kind of up for grabs, which there isn't that much left over. So maybe I'm making it sound a little more dramatic than it is. It's just these little cracks in between all of the other stuff that I'm doing. But it was fascinating that what happened was that every single scrap of the pie chart that is in any way up for grabs over the course of Wednesday and Thursday got totally collapsed into the sanctioned strategic activity, which is reading. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that maybe there are things that I've been struggling to process. My subconscious. I know that this is true. I'm not really prepared to talk about it right now, but maybe soon. Maybe I'm on the track to being able to talk about it soon. So it's not just like procrastinating work. It's like on a deep psychological level, turning to browsing online in order to procrastinate thinking about certain things, processing certain things. So I think perhaps because I took that away, my brain like panic crammed novel reading into all the cracks because my brain was just like, I'm not ready yet for the stuff to bubble up from underneath, the stuff that's going to bubble up if you make space. And the reason that I'm making the space by removing shopping from my weekdays is that I want that to happen. I want to move towards health. I'm trying to make space so that things can bubble up and be processed and so that I will have time and the inner poise necessary to do that work. But of course, it's uncomfortable, you know? So I felt sort of swept along beyond my own control by this compulsion to only read all day, every day. I understand why it was happening. I'm giving myself a break, and I'm just aware that going forward, I'm going to need to slowly wean myself off of that secondary crutch. I did continue reading into Friday, and then we had a friend visiting, and so attention kind of turned to that. And then before I knew it, it was Saturday, and it kind of snuck up on me. But let me tell you what was on my list at the end of the week, the list of things that I was going to shop for, that I was going to research when I got to the weekend. And there were also a handful of things pulled up on my desktop because when I went to, what was I doing? In one of the videos, I was wearing that Ozma wrap top, the ballet wrap top. I love it so much. And I went to link it in the description box of the video when I was compiling the metadata for that video. So I needed to get the link to the product. So I went to the search bar, I typed in Ozma dance wrap top, and then all the search results came up. And a wrap top is like my favorite, a long sleeve wrap top. That's like my favorite item of clothing. So the Ozma one came up because I had searched for it, but then all of these suggestions, as they do, came up. So I searched for it and then they all popped up. And before I could click on the Ozma one to get the link, I saw all of these other like things that were being advertised to me in the search results because of what I had searched for. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to click through those and find out about them. What if I want to buy one of those wrap tops? So what I did was opened them in new windows and I moved all the windows onto a separate desktop on my computer and I just left them there. I didn't look at them. I didn't click through and even find out how much they cost or what they're made of or anything. But the 3 or 4 things that caught my eye from those search results, I just like left clicked them and then scooted them over to this other desktop and I was like, I'll check that out on the weekend. So there were those those things sitting on my desktop, those wrap tops. And then I had my written list. Deodorant, a Sephora, I didn't end up placing it from Sephora. I needed to make an order from a makeup store for review. I want to make a video about tinted lip balms. And so I'm going to use some of my channel's review budget to compare a handful of tinted lip balms to each other. And I got that idea during the week. And I was like, can it wait till the weekend? Like, can deciding on them and ordering them wait till the weekend? In terms of the timeline of production of videos for the channel, it absolutely could wait for the weekend. I didn't need to place that order on Wednesday. I could wait and place it on the weekend. So that was on the list. A bit of work, but I was going to save it for the weekend. I have this sweatshirt from Quince that is like a zips down the side for nursing, and I love it so much. And every time I wear it, I'm like, I want to buy this in another color, which is a trick. It never works out that way for me. When I love something, well, not never. Usually I get the second one and I continue to like the first one better. But during the week, I put this sweatshirt on and I was like, I love it so much, I have to get it in a different color. Instead of doing it, what always happens is I go to the Quince website, I consider buying it, and then I talk myself out of it. I feel like this week kind of broke that cycle because instead of doing that every day over the course of the entire week, I just put it on this list and forgot about it. So that was on the list. A baby toy that I want to buy. I was like, I need to research and find the best one. I had bought some pajamas for my grandmother and needed to exchange the size. So they'd been returned and I needed to place an order for the correct size. So even though it was for someone else, that went on the list. I got it in my head that I wanted to place an order from Lush for like fancy bath bombs. That went on the list. And the Exa Green color corrector, I really want to replace it. I want it back. And that went on the list. So those are the list of things that I was going to not necessarily buy all of them, but consider buying, think about buying come the weekend. So here's what happened. Saturday morning, my friend was still here for a while. Busy morning, lovely time. And I totally forgot about all of this until mid-afternoon. It occurred to me with a thrill of horror and excitement that it was Saturday and that I was allowed to browse these websites if I wanted to. But the thing is, I didn't really feel like it. I kind of wanted to just keep reading my novel. And I actually had this feeling like, I have to get out my list now and plow through all of these things that I had left as notes for myself, because I only have 2 days in which to do it, and I don't want to get to Monday and regret that I didn't do it. But it felt like a chore. Can you believe that? But I did it. I got into it. I knew that some of it was work, some of it was like for my baby, for my grandmother. Like I knew that I did have to do it. I had to get through all of the things. But it was like I had to work up the excitement about, for example, the wrap tops that were saved on my desktop. I was so excited and so curious about them when I saved the sites. And then the time came and I was like, the bubble had already popped. I just didn't really care anymore about how much any of them cost or what they were made of or anything. I was like, I don't need another wrap top, but I guess I'll go check them out. For the sake of past Hannah, I'll go see what it was that she was so excited about. Spending the time browsing and decision making, it just didn't have the allure during the weekend that it had during the week. It really showed me that the allure is primarily in the coping strategy and the distraction that it provides, and not necessarily in the items themselves or the act of shopping itself. So what did I do with the list? I bought the deodorant. I went ahead and bought 2 so that I would be spared the inconvenience of having to order again, so that this would be less likely to happen again. I almost never do that. I almost never buy backups, but I've been using this same deodorant for months and months and months now, and I felt pretty confident that I would want, at least that I would be happy enough to have both of them, that I would use them up. A lot of things just got knocked straight off the list. Like the sweatshirt, the Nursing Access sweatshirt, I was just like, I don't need that. I already have one. I think that taking a break from thinking about it every day and trying to decide every day whether or not I should buy another one, taking a break from doing that caused me to lose interest. Because again, there's something about the action of worrying over it and looking at the listing over and over again, putting in my cart and taking it out over and over again. That is like, it's like that was what I was getting out of it. That was what I wanted. And when that no longer was on the table, the item itself, who knows? Maybe I'll decide to buy it somewhere down the road, but I just don't care right now. I don't want to spend my time thinking about it anymore. So I just stopped thinking about it. And the same was true for the baby toy. I was just like, he doesn't need that right now. He's not old enough for it yet. And I just erased it from my brain. If it had been a different week, like if I wasn't doing this project, I would have spent a significant amount of time every day comparison shopping all of the different versions of this toy. When it came down to it and I was like, okay, I have 5 minutes to buy this thing. When it came down to it, I was like, I don't want to buy it yet. It would get here and then it would be a couple of months until he would even be interested in it. And so it would just be taking up space. What was I thinking? Well, what I was thinking was with my old brain pre this project that it was something that I could spend time researching. That was why it went onto the list because it would have engaged me in that. If I wasn't going to spend time researching it, then it has nothing to offer me. So wild. What a difference a week makes. Lush, I clicked through to the website, the bath bombs and bubble bars and stuff like that. I clicked through the website and I felt immediately overwhelmed. For about 5 minutes, I was like, which one should I buy? And then I was like, I'm just going to keep using the Epsom salts that I got at the grocery store. I closed out the website and that was that. I bought the pajamas for my grandmother, the work of a moment. I just had to put them in the cart and check out. I did engage in a little bit of shopping behavior around the wrap tops. I spent some time clicking around, reading about them, deciding if I wanted one, and the answer was no for all of them. I mostly did it though because I knew that was my only window, and I didn't want to not do it and then have the weekend be over and have to wait an entire other week. I was just like, I have to do this now. It's now or never was kind of how I felt. I was surprised by how uninterested I was in all of the things that I had saved to research and in pretty much all of the things on my list. I'm not totally sure what that was about. I'm not totally sure what the disinterest was about beyond just the fact that it reveals that the brain, the compulsive part of the brain, is more interested in the act of this research and what it can offer me and what it can distract me from than it is in the research itself. I mean, I think that is the only explanation, but the level of that, how powerful that is, surprised me because I do love beautiful things. I do love buying beautiful things for myself. It's just that none of these things are really compelling. That's the thing. None of them are really that compelling. If I didn't actually want to buy any of them, if none of them were really truly calling to me, the part of me that knows that I value quality over quantity, then all they had left to offer me was the research process, the decision-making process, which would probably have eventually led me to the conclusion that I didn't need them. So with my project, it's like I was bypassing that entire process. So what happened was the weekend hit, I looked at the list and I was just like, I don't need any of them. The end. One issue, though, that I ran into, I didn't take the time. I ran out of time in the weekend to place the review products order. I ended up placing it from Credo, mostly. I think I had to get one item from Ulta, but I ended up getting the lip balms for review from Credo. But I kept forgetting about it over the course of the weekend until Sunday night. Because that's the other thing. The weekend was full of things I would rather be doing. My friend was visiting, just hanging out without working. We do work usually on Saturdays, but we try to take at least one day a week off, and these days it's Sunday. Watching Drag Race, there are things that I would rather be doing. And the weekend was full of them. And so I ran out of time to do this one work-related task. And I also maybe was putting it off because it was work-related and it was the weekend. So on Sunday night, last night, because I'm filming this on Monday, it got to the end of the night and I was like, oh no, I have to do this. I have to get this done because tomorrow's Monday. So I stayed up a little bit late making those decisions and checking out with those review products. And I ended up getting a little bit less sleep last night than I would have liked to get because of that. Not ideal going into the week. So a possible pitfall of this project. Next weekend, I'll be prepared. It snuck up on me. Next weekend, I'll try to head it off. But it occurs to me that it is something that could potentially cause a problem, especially if I am feeling reluctant to let go of shopping one weekend and I know that I'm going to wake up the next morning and I won't be able to do it. I could see myself just like staying up late and dragging it out late into Sunday evening. And I don't want to be doing that just for physical health reasons. So something to keep in mind, potentially a flaw in the system, but mostly something to keep in mind. Overall, after this first week, a tremendous sense of relief. I am so glad to be binding myself in this way. I am really realizing more than I knew a week ago when I started it. I am really realizing how much the browsing behavior was filling my mind and taking my time away and making me more anxious and distracted, making me feel busier than I am, rather than helping me unwind and relax. So I'm grateful to the person who took that away who like removed that thorn from my side. And that person is me. I definitely need to address the novel reading during the day though. I'm letting it play out a bit. I do need to address it, but I'm not going to be too harsh. I think that the most important thing is that I'm aware of it. Like I see it happening and I'm keeping an eye on it. So that's it. Fascinating, I think. I mean, I'm always fascinated by these things. That's why I started a whole YouTube channel about them. I'm currently very optimistic about this project, as you can tell, but it's often that way at the beginning. So I don't know how it will end up continuing to go. I can't check in about it every week. I mean, I don't want to take up half my channel only checking in about this one project, but I will try to remember to check in towards the end of February. So once a couple more weeks have passed, I'll come back and let you know how it's evolving. Thank you for watching. If you're doing a project anything like this, let us know in the comments how it's going for you, especially if it's a New Year's project. We're getting towards the end of January now, and I feel like that is when everything starts to get real, because usually with a new project, you start at the beginning of January, you're high on the change for a little while and feeling really empowered, and then as the month starts waning, the reality of what you're asking yourself to do starts actually setting in. And it's like, oh, the grit has to kick in, you know? So if you're experiencing that, let us know. And as always, don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world. I think we got it.